Hi, it's Deb from Project Life Deb's Way. Again, I've got a lovely process video for you today using the Project Life plastic sleeve system for my photo album. And I have used the 13 Arts Magnolia Dreams paper. It's one of their newer lines, so it's still quite readily available, and it does have an ephemera sheet, cutout sheet, and a tag sheet that you can cut out. I just used a few extra leaves and some fernery die cuts just to add from my stash, and a couple of words that I've added. And it does have one distinct paper with this. And because it's such a beautiful muted tonings with this line, I've actually done some spraying and some gessoing to make a couple of extra oomphy sheets for me to use to actually bring the pink colours out. I will give you a quick, see if I can keep the glare, sneak of the cards that will be made during this process. And I do have, as normal, the cutting sheet, which is on my webpage or on my Facebook group, with which I'll put the links down below this video, so you can check that out, so you know what papers and etc. that you'll be cutting. I also will, before each card, have a photograph of the cutting dimensions of that particular card, the picture of the card, so that you know what to get out for the process video of that card. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the subscribe button if you want to check out if I do any more videos and etc., because then you'll be notified when that happens. And please do leave a comment. I do like to read them. Put any suggestions if you want any paper lines, if you want a travel theme and everything else, because I do take that on board when I'm doing my new process videos going forward. So with no further ado, let's get on with making our cards. This is a showcase of the papers that I will be using in this layout. It's done by 13 Arts, called Magnolia Dreams. It's a really very pretty papers. These are the ones I'm not actually using. I will be using these other papers here, which I will flick through for you, which is this one here with a very soft back. I have the lovely grey, which is a lovely strong colour, but I will be using these florals here and actually cutting them out. This one has sort of other bits and bobs that you can cut from, and a beautiful print. And it also has, and I will be using like this one here with the magnolias in the glass, but it also has the lovely grey which goes with that grey sheet. It does come with two cutouts. It comes out with tags, and it also has your cutter parts as well, which I'll be cutting all of the florals out of this because I will be using all of those. Now with these papers, you can actually see I have teamed it up with a beautiful pink basil just for my pop of colour, but there wasn't quite enough strong coloured backing papers except for the grey to make it pop. So I have actually got my handy old book paper, and I have actually sprayed it with Tim Holtz Distress Inks and used some gesso or texture paste with a stencil to actually do, which I have got the video in there showing you how to do that. I have included a whole ton of die cutting, which I've done some frilly little ferny things, and I've also done larger leaves and the smaller leaves to go with those flowers. And I have dunked them in the Tim Holtz Distress Ink, which once again I've got the video on how I've done that. With my flowers, once again, I've got flowers that will lay very, very flat, and I've got some roses, and I'll just show you what I do. I actually strip my roses down and get as many single flowers, mainly because that way your layouts will always remain nice and flat within your albums. But I just tend to put one of these little bling centers into the center of the flower, which if you have a look with your fernery, they look so cute. So that's how I do my flowers. I do have the cutting dimensions once again on my web page, which I've got all the links down below where you can actually get that cutting sheet with all the papers and how I've cut my papers and that, so you've got all the dimensions there in front of you. So before we start, one of the first jobs we need to do is cut our photo mats, which I'm using black this time because it just makes our photographs pop, which I started off with white with the first card. So please ignore the fact that I used a white mat on that. I'm actually using black cardstock. Now to do that, all you have to do is cut strips of 4 inches, and I would do the whole card because I'm using all 3x4 photo mats. So cut your strips like that, and then all you have to do is you go through and cut each of those strips into 3 inch, and that will give you your 12 3x4 photo mats. So you repeat that process with the rest of the cards that you are left. In this part of the video, I'm going to show you how I actually made my, what I class as like a spludgy paper. This collection didn't have any pages bar the grey sheet that had any real strong colours to make it pop, and you need about 1/10 of your layout to have those strong colours. So what I have done, I've just got my good old book again that I've taken a few pages out of there. I'm going to do 2, but maybe you could do 3, and what the paper will turn out like is like this. So I've used a spray, and then I've just used some ordinary white gesso. You could use white paint, anything, on a stencil that I found that had sort of some florals. So I'm just going to show how I actually did these sheets. I have used Tim Holtz's, and I think that it's called pickled raspberry because it just goes with thing. But I did find that the spray was too intense when I sprayed it. So what I did is I got from my stash just a little spray bottle, and then what I did is I just sprayed my colour onto my page, just like that, and that gave me some of my colourings. Very simple technique, and as I said, it will dry out a lot softer, like that. Now if you don't have this little setup, it's really, really easy to duplicate. All you have to do, I'll just move these out of the way so we can actually see a different technique of getting this done. So we'll just grab another book page, which I've got here, and you've got your, any of the distress inks this will work with because they're water-based. So what you can do there is, if you don't have a glass mat, just use a piece of a plastic bag, anything like that, and just put some of this down onto your surface, just like that. Then you can get yourself just some water, an atomizer, And just spray some water onto that, and then just lay your piece of paper and pick up some of that ink. That is another way of doing this, quite simple, and you'll end up with quite a nice splodgy paper. If you find it doesn't have enough ink on there, just add a little bit of more of that and some of your water spray until you get it to the depth of colour that you want. There we have a nice coloured sheet of paper. And then just put these aside and let them dry off. Now, with the luck of a camera, I've already got one piece already done. Just pop your stencil on top of your piece of paper. I can either use a texture paste, or I've just got a gesso primer, which if you have a look is just like a very thick paste. And what we're going to do with this is, this texture paste is lovely, it's quite a smooth texture. Just grab a little bit of that texture paste and start with your stencil from the bottom, but I sort of, whichever way you're going, let's do it from the top. So put your stencil the right way onto the piece, and then just quickly just get some of that pesto. Now, some people tape this down. It probably would be easier to tape it down, then you don't have to hold it so tight. And just go over, giving that a very light covering of the texture paste or the gesso. The gesso works just as well if that's what you've got in your stash. Just go through and then just very gently lift your stencil and then pop it down the bottom. And as you can tell, I moved a bit there, so if you want to you can clean that up, but it doesn't really matter. I did actually find that my the gesso, when I used that, actually was slightly thicker, so of course you didn't get any smudging at all. But these will be sort of not in the forefront, these will be used for some of the background papers, just to give a bit of texture. And just lift that off, and there we have that sheet completely finished. So just put it to one side to dry, and then we'll just quickly finish this other sheet that we have here. If I was doing this, I'd probably do 3 sheets, because then you would have a spare if anything goes wrong, or if you move it or whatever while you're making this sort of mess. But you could use any stencils with this. So there we have that done. Then we'll just lift up our stencil. And there we have our beautiful splodgy paper, and this is how it will dry out. So I'll just go and finish washing all my stuff and I will be back. Now these are the two cutout sheets that come with the paper collection. And as you can tell, they have some very fine leaves here. So I decided I won't be cutting these out. I'll cut all the flowers out, but I won't be cutting the leaves. I decided to do some die cutting. Now I used a little frilly one here, and I've used a sort of a just an off green to match that. And how I did the edging, I just got my die cut here, and I got some of the Distress Oxide, or you could actually, which is the walnut, or use a lighter brown. And what I did is I just very quickly just tipped the little edges of those to make them a little bit brown on the outside, to give you, you'll probably be able to see a little bit better there. So I went through and I have 6 of these. I probably won't use all of these, but I have done 6 of those to add to my kit. Now with my leaves, I just used some green basil, and what we're going to do is we're going to colour them so they have a little bit of a shimmer and colour. Now it's really easy to do this. All I have done is I have used Tim Holtz Distress Ink Rusted Wilderness, and I've got my little dauber that I will be using. What I did here is I just put some of that down onto my mat. If you haven't got one of these, a craft mat would do, or if you haven't got that, a piece of plastic. Now I didn't put any water with this, but what I did do, I've got one of those Wink pens. I just put a couple of drips of this through, and what that does, and then I sort of just doubled that around, it just gives a bit of a shimmer to your leaves. And then all I did, this is the right side of the die, I have turned them upside down, and I have just gently tapped them into that mixture. And I've got my Stanley knife, because otherwise, if you don't want green fingers, you could wear gloves if you wanted to for this. And then I have just virtually dabbled that down and got my green and just put them to one side. If you find it isn't working as well, just give yourself a couple of spritz of water, and that will liquefy what you're doing. And I also think I want a bit more shimmer. On my things. So then we just keep going through with your leaves, just picking up that ink. Until you're happy with the look. And if they haven't come out as you want, just give them a bit of a wiggle in that juice. Making sure you don't put your fingers in there. Otherwise you'll go for dinner and you'll have all green on your hands. Okay, and just keep working your way through. So I've got 6 of these, which I don't think I'll use because I'll be stripping these all down. Now if you find it's not quite green enough for your liking, just get that little dauber and pick up some of your colour. go. It's quite an easy way of getting sort of a 3D look on your leaves. Now I did also do a few single leaves and a few of the larger leaves because we do have some larger flowers with this. So if you put your small leaves with it, it will look completely odd. So we're just going to give this a good old swirl round. Making sure that the right side of your die is down in the colour. And you will get some really, really good effects with this, particularly when they dry. And it's far cheaper than buying your leaves from the companies. As I said, I've got a few little ones, single ones that I've done. So there we have our leaves, and I don't know whether you can actually see, but it does have a little bit of a shimmer to them as well. So just let them all dry, and that is all the leaves that you need to do for this particular layout. And as I said, you need to cut most of the florals in here. Some of the bigger leaves too, this one and this one I'll be using. I might use that as a circle, but I don't know yet. So we shall see as we go along with our project. I've just changed this one card here. Instead of cutting white photo mats, I've decided to actually use black because the photographs weren't popping out. So I've just changed my photo mat by taking the other piece off and just popping the black behind. This is card number 2. So we have got our 3 5/8 by 2.5 inch strip, which I have edged in the brown, and I want that just down the bottom there once again with that nice little border that goes there. So we'll just take our tape off. Just remember, you don't need tons and tons of tape because they are in plastic sleeves. So just pop that down nicely. Now with my photograph, because I've got old photographs, of course they're not really true to size because they've been scanned and cut and everything else. So this is your 3 by 4 mat that you've previously cut, and if your photograph is 3 by 4, just take off 1/8 of an inch both sides, the normal thing, and then you would put your photograph in the middle. Because mine is slightly smaller, I will be attaching mine to my photo mat and cutting it down, and I'm pushing mine down slightly because I want to put the date up the top here like so. So I'm just going to quickly attach my photograph to my photo mat. This is where it helps if you do have your photographs on hand when you are making your layouts. It just makes it that little bit easier. So I'm just going to cut that down with a little edge like that. So instead of putting mine in the middle, I'm going to bring that over to where that 3 by 3 would be, and I want that just slightly over, as far as you can go, so your photograph would look like that. So when you put your tag and etc. in, it will just fit underneath that photograph. So I'm just measuring up where my photograph needs to go, and I'm going to take mine to the line just to hide that line. So I'm going to attach. Now I've put my tape slightly in so I can tuck things underneath. So I'm just going to bring that down and attach my photograph. Then I will attach my label that I have. I did have married there, but I think it's self-explanatory that my parents are getting married, so I'm going to leave that off. I'm going to put that into the center. And of course you would center anything, but I'm going to put it over the top of my photograph. Now I wanted a tag tucked in to here because I'm going to put a little floral piece. Now this one came from the ephemera sheet, and I've just edged it. So I'm just going to stick this down. Now as you can tell, I'm straight. I like things quite straight, so I'm going to have that piece crooked and this straight with just a little bit of that pink showing. Now the flower I'm going to use is a little mulberry flower, which will lay nice and flat, and I want that to go up here above these two with the little leaf that I've just cut off one of the die cuts, which I'm just going to pop up here. So once I've got my positioning right, I'm going to attach this underneath my photograph to sort of shape the same as this. Like so. Now my flower, I'm going to get a bit of glue for that. And that is going to be laid quite flat, just to stop bulk. And the little leaf, I'm just going to put a bit of glue on either side and pop it underneath that flower. Now if you haven't got photographs and you want to have this piece here, don't put any tape on where you photograph, and then you can just slide your photograph up and underneath what you require if you haven't got what you want to do for your photographs and you want to leave it blank. Now I'm going to put just one single flower here, and I have stripped some leaves from the larger one, and I'm going to put 2 little green leaves like that, and I may actually put a spot on that. So I'm going to attach my leaves, getting them stuck together. And then get a couple of the mounting squares. Pop them underneath my make sure everything is stuck down nicely, and there we have card 2 finished. So on to card 1. This is your 6x4 card. So what we need to do is we're going to put the pink strip on the top here. So, and I have used Distress Oxide in a walnut, or you could use any of your nice browns, just to do my edging of all my flowers and everything else. So now we need to just pop the pink card down, and I just want, once again, that little 1/4 inch border all the way around. Now this one is just being cut just slightly smaller with the cutting directions, so that one just goes on top of the other card. Now I have cut from the cutting sheet, which is here, this piece that has been cut here on GO3, and I've just cut the glass and all these flowers out, and that is what I've used here. Now this bud was down here when you cut it out, so I've cut that completely separate, and I'll be using that separately. Now what I want here is this to sort of go up a bit like so, and that will be stuck flat. So we will just attach that on the top of the card. Like so. Then this one, I'm just going to pop that here so it looks like the flower, the magnolias are at the top. So just join that to the piece that was cut. This piece here I'm going to attach here, and I want this to be a little bit darker so that you can't see the join. Now what I want with this one is a little bit of glue down on the bottom and a foam square at the top, and then just poke that underneath and bring that, which will give you a little bit of dimension. Now these flowers, I've got a lovely little flower pot here, which will be put down flat, and you want that just over your grey, like so. Now these flowers here, So this one is going to lay flat. This one is going to have a couple of foam dots behind, just to give it a bit of dimension there. Like so. Now this little one here, which once again is one of my stripped flowers, is going to go there. Now, as I said, I used the two different cutouts that I've used. I've used this one here, which I explained on how to colour before, and your set of leaves. Now I've stripped them all down into tiny little bits, because what I want to do now is just attach my little feathery bits underneath my florals. Trying to use groupings of 3 or uneven numbers, because they do look more to the appeasing to the eye. And there we have our groupings. So now we just need to attach with some glue your leaves. And your feather pieces, which goes on the top of your leaf, and just attach those down. And poke that one just underneath to fill in that little empty spot. And it's a great way of using some of your die cuts and things that you could have in your stash. We'll stick our flower in, which I've just put a little bit of bling on for the center. Then I am going to put my saying up the top, so you could put your year or whatever you needed on there, which I've taped down. Now I've just edged these in a little bit of a matching pink. We just put our saying. You could put your year here, just sort of a title, because this is classed as what I class as an eye candy card. So I've just put Mum and Dad snapshots. And then quite easily we have got number 1 finished. This is our card number 3, which I've cut my 6x4. If you have a look here, it is from the the paper with the Eiffel Tower, just up the top here where that flower and that is, and I've used the other side, making sure that the words run crossways. Now I've cut your 3 3/4 by 1 1/2 strip of grey paper with the script running crossways. Now we are going to attach that just down on the bottom of this card with a little bit of a border all the way around. And then we will grab, I have used for a double photo mat, so you would cut this out at 3x4. Now unfortunately, because of my photographs, I've got a different shaped photograph which is slightly not 3x4. So what you would do with your 3x4 card, for example, it would be this size. So you actually just run it down over the top of the grey there, like that, or you could put it up a little bit further up here, just like that. So as I said, mine is a bit of a different shape, so I'm going to put the middle of the square. So just put your 3x4 in that space. Now I'm going to attach that down like so. So as I said, yours will come from the top to the bottom. Now with your black photo mat, you would also have a 3x4. So to make that the correct size, all you have to do is just take 1/8 of an inch off 2 sides, and that will give you the next size down from what you've cut. So you attach that onto your double photo mat like so. Now I've got my photograph, which as you can tell is that particular size. So what I need to do now is just chop off 1/8 of an inch off of my photograph from the bottom. And I'm going to take off 1/8 of an inch off of the side of that photograph, and then that should give me the exact size I need for my photograph. Now I have changed my photo mats to black because my photographs were just muting into everything with the white mats, so I've changed them to black, which is making my photographs pop out so you look at your photographs, not the other stuff. Now I've taken from the fussy cut sheet, it's 3 florals, a small one, and we're just going to pop these down . And just sort of do your display until you're happy with what you've got, and then just tuck some of the green leaves, and I've used these separate leaves just to give a bit of colour to everything, and the rose leaf goes under this one. I'm going to pop that underneath there so it's just tucked out, and put the small one in here. I think with this one I'm going to cut off and just make it a little bit smaller so that it fits in better, and then we're going to put a little bit of the fernery in. Like that. And once you're happy with your layout, you can start sticking things down. So sort of just lift off the whole bit like this, and then you can stick your leaves down, because you know sort of where they're going. And just stick them on. You find that's one thing with using this glue, you can fiddle with it because it hasn't actually physically stuck down. And make sure everything's attached. Like so, and then you just need to put your little diamante into your flower. In the center there. And there we have card number 3 finished. This is card number 4, which is the last of our portrait cards that we'll be doing. Now this sheet here came from the G07 and it's this card just here at the bottom, if you need to know where to cut from. So we have got some of our made paper, which is going just at the bottom here. So we need to just attach that, and I've edged both of my cards. So we just pop that down. Once again, if you've been following my videos, you know I like my little border all the way around. Now I've got a true 3x4. I'm sorry you can't really see that very well. I really should have some white paper. So we've got our 3x4 photo mat. Now with my photo, once again, I've just taken off 1/8 of an inch off of 2 sides so that it fits perfectly onto that 3x4 mat. like that. Now this is going to go now we just need to attach our photograph in the center of our card, once again leaving the same border from the top to the bottom just to even things up a bit. Now I've got my little flower display done, so I'm going to push those top bits up. And I'm going to pop this down the bottom, this one here I'm going to, I don't want it raised too much. Now a nifty little trick to do with that is just get yourself a small piece of cardstock. If you only want it raised just that tiny little bit, not as much as a glue dot will do, and just pop that underneath. Then you can pop that on the top, and it will give you a nice you can actually see your layers. Now we're just going to pop a small leaf in here, and I want these feathers to be popped underneath. If it's a bit too big, just snip off what you don't need. So you can just tuck it underneath. So and I want a leaf on this side, Oop, put the glue on the wrong side. Just attach everything down as it needs to be, and there we have the last of our portraits done. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there, because as I put that into my plastic folder, that is going to ride up, same as this one. We'll just make sure that's well stuck down. Now these are our eye candy cards for the 3x4s. I will start by doing 5C, which is the bottom one. So what I've done here is I've got my 3x4 and I have just cut off an 1/8 of an inch on the two sides to give me that little border, and I've edged it in brown. So we are going to stick this down onto our card like so. Then I've taken my 1-inch strip and I've measured it, so it's 3 3/4, but you just need that little border all the way around. So once again I'm going to stick that down the bottom, giving myself the little border, and then I've taken my little piece of book page, which is 3.5 by 7/8, and that should just fit on, and I've edged that with the brown So we are going to stick this down. Now I'm going to put my larger flower here, and then from the back I'm just going to pop these magnolias in until I sort of got them to where I would like them to be. And I'm going to put, I just had a little bit of this left, so I'm going to tuck that in as well, and then I'll put tuck a couple of leaves in. Like that. And there we have our eye candy card. So what I will do now is hold that down, take this one out, and just glue, tuck that in. Take this one off. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on these leaves to attach them nicely. There we have our first card finished. Now we'll go on to the next one, which has got the grey, which is the 3x4 with the print running acrosswards, and this is that little frame that needs to be cut out, and I've just edged it with the brown. I'm going to face it this way. Now I've cut, there was a piece here which I've cut off so that it will actually fit down onto this 3x4. So I'm going to attach that straight away. I then decided I didn't like that, so I took one of the round circles that's on the cut apart sheet. And I'm just going to put that right in the center. And it's got some print on there, so don't make a mistake like I nearly did, and put that into the middle like so. Now I've got a couple of leaves and a couple of flowers here. I've also got Good Times, which is going to go right here in that center. So the flowers that we need, we are going to just tuck one underneath that circle so it doesn't look just plopped in situ. So we'll just hook that in like that. This one here, I'm going to chop off the end. Might move that up slightly. And then I'm going to put underneath one of the leaves there. Then I'm going to tuck another leaf under the rose, and then just tuck my rose on top. Of course you have to put the follow through. Just pop your little bit of bling into the center to give it a center, and then put your glue, your Good Times in the center of that circle. Now I tend, if I've got glue like that, I get a bit of a wet one and I just give it a quick dot down with a wet one, and that actually gets rid of the excess glue if there is any, just to finish your card off. There we go, and there's our two 3x4s, and then you now we're going on to our little 3x4 on our right hand side. So you need 2 sets of your white photo mats 3x4 and your black mats. Now your black mats, I have just taken off 1/8 of an inch this side and 1/8 of an inch off this side, so you only take 1/8 of an inch off of 2 sides, and what that will do is give you that tiny little border all the way round, just the same as what we did for card 5A and 5C. So we just repeat the process here. So we attach our 2 photo mats down, and I have cut my photographs down again with just 1/4 of an inch on 2 sides to make them fit into those photo mats. But you can now we're going to start on our right hand side, which is all landscape orientated basically. So this is what we class as card number 6, which I have cut a piece, which is this piece here on the Eiffel Tower, which is your 4x6 piece, and I have used the other side with the print. Now I've also cut a 1x5.5 inch strip of our paper that we made, and I've just lined that in the pink cardstock, which is just cut here on your pink cardstock. So we need to attach those two together, and I've inked everything, and I'm going to attach that so that we have a matching strip as similar to what's on the other side of the layout, with just the border evenly all the way around. Now with this one, I've cut one of the small little tags with the glass, and I am going to just edge that in pink just to define the edges a bit, and that is going on the side here. So I'm going to slightly angle that on the side of my card, so it's a bit over, sort of right in the middle. Now I've got my photo mat, which is your 3x4. Now what I've had to do here, I have had to cut off 1/4 of an inch and make that. So this photo mat is 2 3/4 by 3 2 3/4. Now the reason why I've had to make that slightly smaller is so that it will fit on my landscape. Now if you had a normal photograph, you can also put it this way as well. So it depends on what orientation your photograph. So I've just cut this photograph down, which is something I normally don't do, so that it fits on in my sheet. And we are going to stick that up into the corner like so. Now I've got the other saying, which is love this, which I'm going to pop up the top like that. Now I've got one of my large cut out flowers from a cut apart sheet, which is going here with 2 of the leaves that I've die cut, and just pop them like that. And I may raise this just slightly. Now I'm going to do my raise trick that I do by just cutting a piece of cardstock, because I don't want too much height, and I'm just going to pop that down, and then I'm going to pop this flower down, and what that will do is just give you a little bit of height and 3-dimensional without the huge depth that you get with double-sided tape. And then I can just poke my leaves underneath, which I probably should have done before I put the flower on. And then I'm going to put my little word up the top there. And there is card number 6 completed. Now this is card number 7. It's quite an easy card to do, and once again I've had to make my photo mat a little bit smaller so that I can fit a portrait on there. Now if you wanted to, you can actually do your true 3x4 this way and just organized your side fillers with your photo mat in place first. So pop your photo mat down, and of course I've popped my photograph on. So this worked out at 2 3/4 by 3 1/4, and I've just trimmed my photograph down to suit the space that I've got. Unfortunately, with old photographs like this, we didn't take a lot of photographs because we didn't have the digital cameras in those days. So I'm just going to pop that, allowing that little border around. Now I have got my cut aparts, and as you can see I've got my circle. Now the reason why I'm putting a circle on my right hand side is because on my left hand side we had a circle in here, and it just matches up your layout. So I'm going to put that circle just at the top. So you always try to match up one side to the other side and make sure that your writing goes the right way. And I've edged this in brown as the same as my 6x4 card. Now I've got some florals here that I'm going to play with, and of course these are going to be poking upwards like that with a circle, and I've got some of my little ferny leaves I'm going to pop in down the side. So I think the first thing is we'll put our first flower down the bottom here and just very gently play where we want these fern leaves. Okay, so as soon as you've got where you basically want your things to go, I would take the second flower off and attach the under things. Pop them down with a bit of glue so they're nice and flat. And I've edged my flowers with the brown again because it just gets rid of those harsh lines that you sometimes get with cutting. It just sort of covers them up. So we'll just stick our little florals down. I tend to like using this wet glue for this type of thing because as you're sticking them down you can actually move them for a few minutes until you get all the other elements down. Pop that down there. Now this one again, I want that a little bit more raised, so I am actually going to put that on to some double-sided tape. And as I said, if you had your 3x4 there, you would only put like your circle, the one flower and this flower on. You could actually put this one down here, so that would give you your true 3x4 photo. So you just have to juggle the bits that you're putting in. And there is another very easy card finished. Card 8. Now our 6x4 card that we are going to use came from this top sheet here, and it came from this square here with all the florals as by the cutting instructions. So we need to just edge that across. Now I have got a pink 2.5 by 3.5, so it just fits into this corner. We'll just pop that on, and then I've cut a grey card. It doesn't matter about the length here particularly, but this is 2 inches by 3 1/8 high. Now the reason why I say 3 3/8, just needs a tiny little border all the way around, so you just need to trim it to the size so that you have that small border like that. And remembering when you cut the grey to make sure that your writing runs the right way. I've got a true 3x4 photo mat here, which is going just here on my layout. Now before I'm only going to stick this side permanently down and leave this side loose, because I want my tag to fit up underneath. So just hold that photograph up and pop your tag over the top and attach everything down. With this one, I've got one of the large flowers, which I'm just going to pop over my top like that. And if you find it is sitting a bit funny, do my little trick of cutting yourself a little piece of cardstock and just attach that next to where that tag is, and that will give you a nice flat solid ground to stick to. And then we will just poke our little leaves in either side. And I think with my leaves, I'm going to put the small one at the top and the larger leaf down the bottom. And there we have card 8. Card 9. Here is our 6x4, and this card here has come from this top sheet here, card number 9, which is a 6x4, which is just there. Now I also have cut my pink, so this one is going in the bottom. Now this is so there is a card on my other side with exactly the same system, and this one is cut so there is just a little tiny border all the way around, so we will attach that one. And I've edged both of these patterned papers in the brown. Now I've already attached my photograph to my 3x4 photo mat, and that is going to go in a little bit, so we have a similar border. Now on the side of this card, now I'm going to raise that slightly up to the top. The reason being is I have a little saying I want to put down below. Now I have picked up or cut one of this little white floral, and I'm going to stick that down first because everything else will go on top of this. This was a bit of a fiddly cut, but there we have that floral. Now I've put one of my lovely little flowers here, which is going to go here. I've got one just down here, so I'm going to pop my flowers in, and then I'll pop my leaves. I have got a little one of the flowers I stripped, the buds that are left over. What I do with those, I normally have a piece of, leave the wire on there if I can. Give it a good squash with your bone folder, which will flatten it, and then you have a nice little bud. Now I'm going to attach that with a bit of glue. Now because I've ripped my wire out, I'm just going to put a little piece like that, and then get some green and just make it like a bud with my green. There, and in my flower center, of course, you need your little centerpiece like that. Now I'm going to start to glue everything down. Where I want it to go. Making sure it's quite as flat as I can make it. Now this one here, I'm going to put a piece of foam tape. And then I've got my little leaf, which the little rose leaves can go in. So I'm just going to quickly glue those into place. Now if you're having trouble getting that in, just cut the bottom of the leaf off. And you can sort of just slide that in. And there we have the last of our major cards finished. Now this is the other two 3x4s on the right hand side that I'm going to do. So this one is the 10, what I class as 10A, which has got your pink 3x4, and then I had one with just 1/4 inch off of two sides, which I'm going to put in your white cardstock just inside that pink. Then I have cut a 3.5 by 2.5 of the paper that we made, and I've edged that with the brown, and we're going to put that once again into the middle, like so. Then I have chosen one of my tags, and this one had the flowers coming down, and I like that because I want my flowers down the bottom. So I'm going to put that just slightly askew. And I've edged that in the brown. I'm going to pop that just across the top like that. Now I've picked one of my little pink roses I've cut apart with a leaf. Get a couple of leaves. I've got a little bit of fernery left. So we will just plonk our little bits like that onto that card. So once I've done that, I sort of know where my sticking things need to be. So I will just glue these quickly down. my little rose in there, which once again you need your little centerpiece. Now this one I'm going to put on some foam tape to get me a little bit of height. There, very quickly we have our eye candy card, as I call them, and that's why we made this book paper, because you just needed something with a bit of texture to add to your card. So there we have one card finished. This one here, you need to cut your grey print, making sure the print runs the right way. I have picked out one of the tags with the Eiffel Tower, which once again I'm going to put straight. Now I have got a little saying here that I'm going to attach, so I just need to angle. We will angle our card here slightly off center and crooked. I am going to put down my little card that I've got my saying for. Down the bottom corner, and then I'm going to edge my little saying to finish it off. So I've put here, understand your parents' love, you must raise children yourself. Chinese proverb. So if you ever put a little proverb, whatever, you got to say who said it or whatever, and then I've just put how true this is, and then I've just put mum and dad were such good parents, always ready to listen and support all life endeavours no matter what, which sums up my parents. So I'm just going to put that. Now what we do now is you just put your little attachments, and I found a little bit of this left over, so I've just sort of cut it off, and a leaf, because you're getting down to your bits and bobs by the time you get to the bottom. So I think I'm going to put one of those little tags up the top here, and then pop my flowers on the top. So I might even just fiddle with this a bit. Okay. So we're going to attach this up the top. And then I want one of my flower, that sort of flower, to come here. So I'll use this as my base flower, and then I will put this up the top here, and just tuck it underneath. I'll put my base flower in and press him down so he's nice and flat as I can get him, and we put a leaf at the bottom, and then I've got a little rosebud I'm going to attach, which is one of those that I've stripped the flower from, and that was the center, so I've squished it to make that little flat bud. And don't forget to get your little bit of green just to make it look like it is a bud. So we now have our two little eye candy cards. Now, if you don't want to put a proverb there, you could actually do some of your storyline or whatever you wanted to do, in which case you would actually find yourself some lined paper or type it up on the computer for whatever you want. Here's the cards all finished in my plastic sleeve Project Life system, ready to go into my album. I do hope you did enjoy this video, and until next time, please keep safe and scrap all those beautiful things.